United.
Welcome back to the Triple Option presented by Wendy's. Excited to welcome in one of the best to ever wear the scarlet and gray, 3-time Super Bowl champion, and the new head coach of the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel, man, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you, big dog.
Appreciate you having me, man. I was going to wear the hoodie. I just figured I couldn't cut the sleeves off.
Hey, I don't want you showing me up. I know you still stacked up, dog. So, you know what I mean?
Hell I am.
Mark, you said you got a little piece of Vrabel, or he got a little piece of you over the years. Which one happened?
Yeah, man. We had our share of run-ins, man. I respect him a lot as a player and respect him a lot as a coach. I know what his teams are built on, the ones that I played against, the Ravens and Titans. We had some battles from head-to-head, so I know what he's about. And he's a coach that I would have loved to play for sure.
He kept saying we should trade him in for Derrick Henry. We should trade him and Derrick Henry. He said, I'm the real Bama running back.
You know what's up. Hey, I helped you have that. You know what I mean? I helped you groom that right there.
Perfect.
Hey, Mike, I want to hit everybody. I think this is going to be a really good story. But in 2005, I get a phone call from Bill Belichick. I just take the Florida job from Utah with Alex Smith. And he calls me and he says, hey, this is Bill Belichick. And I said, yeah, this is Pete Rose. I started joking around and saying, and he said, no, it's really Bill Belichick. I'm like, oh, damn. And he said, I've studied your offense. I want to bring Josh McDaniels down. We're going to study some of the spread offense you guys are doing. So he comes down. We strike up a great relationship for years. He invites me up in spring of 2006 for mini camp. And I think to this day, I still share that that's arguably the greatest locker room I've ever witnessed, and I think that maybe ever existed. You had Tom Brady, Bruschi, Vrabel, Rodney Harrison, Vince Wilfork, and many others. But I was dealing with some stuff like all players, like all coaches. You had lazy, you had just shit going on in your locker room. In 2005 and 2006, this is the first time I met you. I sit down with you. And I remember it was you, Bruschi, and Tom Brady. And I said, guys, just let me grab you for 5 minutes here. Because I was amazed. This is after watching a mini camp I saw Mike Vrabel with a beanie on his head running down as hard as he could on scout kickoff. I see Tom Brady acting like a 2-minute drills. He's trying to win the Super Bowl. Bruschi's running the entire defense. And here's what Mike Vrabel told me. He said, Coach, our job in the locker room, we don't put up with anything in this locker room. We find players. We hold people accountable. It's my job, our job, to keep it off of Bill Belichick's desk. That's what he told me. And I used that with my team. We won the national championship that year. You remember when I was a coach at Ohio State, I told people the stories about that locker room. Great players, great coaches come and go. Great locker rooms are, I think, damn near impossible to get. Take us into that locker room and tell us how in the world do you get that going again at New England?
Well, I think that's the biggest question, right? Is not what it was. It's how do we recreate that? And I think that I was always trying to search for that. And I think you start by investing in people. I think you have to be able to have some talent to play in this league. You can't win games without talent, but I thought we were very intentional in free agency. We had to reinvigorate some of the talent on this football team, and some of the people that we brought in hopefully can do that, right? Because my job and your job when you were a coach is to protect the team. And that's the most important thing, is the team. And so if the players are willing to do it, great. And if they can't, then that's where I have to be able to step in and do my job and hold people accountable and put them in the right places. And hopefully if you get enough of those players and they compete and they embrace that, right? And I think the closer that you become to each other, the easier it is to hold a guy accountable. If I don't know Mark and I'm like, Mark, you're not really running that hard, or you're not finishing runs, he's going to bow up and he's going to be like, why are you, who are you to tell me this? But the more I get to know Mark and the more his family and the things that he cares about and the things that are important to him, then it's like, Mark, get your pads down, man, and run through contact. And you're going to have to break. We can't block them all. And then he starts to say, you know what? He's right. I'm not finishing like I should. And so I think it does start with the connection piece that I think is critical, so that you can do that from a teammate to teammate perspective, and then from a coach to player perspective.
Hey, Coach, I wouldn't question you if you told me that. I would figure out how to get my
Well,
pass
because
down to
you're
run
old
through
school. What do you,
contact.
you know what I mean? We're getting a different player now. I know you
Yeah.
want it because I know where
Yeah.
how you
Nah.
were raised and how you were coached, but it's different. Like we are
Right.
getting a different player. This is the I think the players should be paid. I think they should be compensated.
Yeah.
But the ability for them to kind of move when they want to move
Right.
is taking the team aspect away. And that's
Mm.
okay. Like we'll figure it out, but we just got to figure out which behavior we can actually change when it gets to the league because the team is critical in this game.
Facts.
It's a long season, it's a tough season, and the team is the only thing that's going to get you through, some of those tough
Hey,
times.
hey, before I turn over to Mark, I just want to really stay in this locker room conversation because I'm still mesmerized by it. So I remember Coach Belichick and Matt Patricia are very close with, and they would take maybe a player, he actually used these words, a peripheral type player. And a peripheral player is maybe that has a reputation of being selfish or, we're all selfish, but I mean, just maybe not a team first player. And then you see New England take these guys back in that era and they became team players. And I
Yeah,
remember
that's
hitting
fair.
Mike Vrabel. I remember hitting you guys with that. And you said you would go to the staff, and I think Brady even said this somewhere. I'll handle this guy. This is the way we do business here. It's because you got grown ass men running a locker room, not children. So hit us again.
So I
Just
think what we found out, like Corey Dillon was a great teammate, and Corey Dillon. The only thing I knew about Corey Dillon was that people in Cincinnati or somebody didn't like him in Cincinnati or said the media said but when he got here, I was like, this guy runs his ass off. Like he tries to break people's face masks with his forearm. And I'm like, or Rodney Harrison. Like Rodney showed up and I'm like, whoever said this guy couldn't still play should never evaluate talent ever again. Like this
Mm.
is crazy. So I think all you do is you have an open mind and you can only evaluate, like, I don't care how they get here. All I care about is what they do when they're here. So
Right.
if you can spread that message, like, who cares what you did or what people said about you? Like, whatever you do here is what I'm going to evaluate on you on, and the teammates are going to evaluate you on. So I don't even think any of these guys that Randy Moss, Corey Dillon, any of these guys that came in, like, I thought they were like, had been with us for since 2001.
That's how you know that you got a good locker room, though, when you can get guys from the outside coming in like that and they feel at home. That's how a locker room thrives. That's why you guys are
Yeah.
so
And
successful.
some of these great players, like they just want to they're just competitive. And if
Yes.
they were in a bad situation, like people lash out for different reasons,
Facts.
right? And so they maybe had a bad situation, or again, there's a contract, this or playtime or this relationship with the coach. Like, I don't know. It just and it was never a problem.
Right.
I mean, I think that just those types of players were ultimately competitive and they were great players and they came here and
Yeah.
we built a team.
Yeah. I know we kind of talked about like the new day and age, the new school player, how they can kind of choose where they want to go and how that dynamic kind of, will have to change their mindset kind of going to the NFL. But I know you're close to Coach Bill. What's your guy doing, man, going down to the Tar Heels, man, trying to get involved in this college era of NIL and all this?
I don't know. Like I didn't talk to Bill about his decision. Like I meant we talk but we'll see. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that 3 years in college was enough for me and I took off to the NFL and you know, I'm sure Urban told you. Urban didn't want to hire me. You know what I mean? He'll tell you he didn't want to hire me, or that was just his way of motivating me. And he did a good job because I learned a lot there. But I you know, just felt like the pro game was where I wanted to be. And if Bill feels like he wanted to go down to North Carolina and try to recreate that, um, I wish him all the luck in the world until
Right.
they
So,
play Ohio State.
so there was no thought about you returning to the college ranks.
Not right now. No, no,
all right, wait, I
not
gotta
not right
speak
now.
my piece here. So when he says I didn't want to hire him, I got hired at Ohio State, and
He's
Luke
trying to
Fickell was
protect
interim.
himself.
You're damn right I am, and so Luke, I'm blown away with them. They play good defense, and I decided to keep Luke, and I love Luke Fickell. And he said, I got one guy I'd like to keep, and it's Mike Vrabel. I said, oh man, Mike Vrabel was a great player, and I said, I don't, we gotta I just don't want to have too many guys from the past, and you just got to be cautious about that. So I said, sure, we'll talk to Mike. We talked to Mike, but I'm going on record. Mike's one of the finest. And one quick Mike Vrabel story is the intensity. He's still damn near a player at this point, big sucker. And so all of a sudden we're playing the Wolverines, and you know where I'm going with this, Mike. So we're playing Wolverines in 2012. It's probably 5 degrees outside, Mark. And we, to get the teams out of their damn mind, and we come out, we're playing our ass off. I look over at Mike. He's got a hat on, not a hoodie, like a stocking cap.
Beanie.
Yeah, and his face is like bruised up, and he's like got a little mark on his face right there. And I'm, I don't have time to, we're coaching and all. I looked at my car. I said, "What the shit? What the hell happened here?" Then later on, I found out that the players were all headbutting each other before the game, Mark, and someone got right in the middle of it. And his name was Mike Vrabel.
It was right here. It split me up. I had 6 stitches, and they wrapped like gauze around my head, and they put a beanie on. And I mean, I was like out of it, and had on the betadine, and I was like yellow, and it was like dripping in my eyes and stuff. So Urban's like, okay, I'm going to interview you in the morning. And I tell this story to every person I interview to kind of like drop the shield a little bit. I said, however you do in this interview, it will never be as bad as my first interview. I had never interviewed. I coached for a year, and basically what I did is I coached the linebackers, but I really just made sure that they went to class and they showed up at practice on time, because Luke coached the linebackers and was the head coach. So I was like kind of figuring my way out. First interview, Urban in front of the whole staff that he had just hired. I get up there. I mean, I draw this little circle, this little T, talking about a 3 technique. And I mean, I just pissed down my leg. I had no idea. And he's like, "That is the worst thing I've ever seen." He goes, "I want you to go home, figure this out, and come back at 6 in the morning." And I was like, I go home. I said, "Jen, I don't know if I'm going to be coaching much longer." I said, that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. And so then I stayed up. I went back to the office, stayed there all night, had a teaching progression, figured out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to explain it. And then they said, "Let's try this again at 6 in the morning." And we did a little better.
A lot better.
So I'm like, I said, whatever interview you have, it cannot be worse.
You still use that story?
Every time, every single time.
Wow. Here's an all-pro.
Awesome.
What sold me was an all-pro. Here's a guy that doesn't have to do this, and he stayed there all night. And him and Luke, I mean, obviously, a great success story. How about the Buckeyes winning the title, and still got to beat that damn team up north, though, man.
But, I mean, they just pissed them off. I think at least they used them to piss them off, and the tournament. And I was there yesterday. There's just a lot of players. There's a lot of talent. I mean, the thing that I'm most proud of, coach, is, Doug Marrone is our offensive line coach, and Doug Marrone was with us on the visit to Pro Day.
Wow.
And Doug loves history. He loves and so you walk around there and he's looking at the former players, and I'm showing him Buckeye Grove, and I'm showing him all the All-Americans.
Yeah.
I'm showing the Woody Hayes chalkboard. I mean, this guy, he's been around football his whole life at a high level, and he's taking pictures of all the stuff and the tradition at Ohio State. And I'm like, you kind of take it for granted. But then when somebody else that hasn't been there, that loves the history of the game, is kind of taken aback, you're like, yeah, I guess this is pretty special.
Yeah, coach, man. 2-time All-American at Ohio State, 3-time Super Bowl champion, NFL Coach of the Year. Now you're back where you started with the New England Patriots. Just signed Stephon Diggs. What are you doing, man, from your experiences, not only as a coach and as a player? What are you enforcing what message are you driving home before the football is even snapped going on right now?
Right. And to me, it's about building a program. It's about building a program that the players, when they show up here in a week, are proud of, that they want to protect, and that they want to be a part of. Like, that's the first thing that we're doing. And somebody asked me, what does success look like? I get it. When it's wins and losses, it's either this or this, and that's in the season. But in April and May, success is that the players believe in what we're doing. They believe in the departments that are helping them. They believe in the coaching. They believe in the workouts. They believe in the message. They believe in what we're teaching them. Like, to me, that's the most important thing, is that they believe in what they're doing, and that they believe that the stuff that we're doing is going to help them support their families. And then in turn, the better they play, the better the team's going to play. So that's the message right now is that we want to make sure that we're supporting them and we're giving them everything that they need to improve.
Do you have to be cautious about, and I always tried to do this because players told me that before. Do you have to be cautious about this is the way it used to be, constant, because the players at some point will
Yeah,
say,
I
enough of that.
what I want to do is, again, there's 6 banners that hang out in our stadium. And I've said this, that those are gonna that none of that is gonna help us, right? But what that is that's a blueprint to success and how hard you have to work and what you have to do and the sacrifices that you have to make. I try not to ever live in, man, this is how I did it, or this is how so and so did it, because I just have never felt like that has helped. Um, but I know that the to be able to draw on some of those experiences from that success is going to help us, but not how it's going to been. You don't want to do things the way we always have, because you'll get what you always got, but you want to have a reason for why you're doing things. You want to make sure that there's, again, that there's a clear message, right? It's clear, it's concise, and being direct. And those are things that I learned early on from you, and about how important teaching is, and these mobile classrooms that we do, and the walkthroughs, and the screens, and getting them up out of a traditional classroom setting. And there's a lot of things that I learned early on as a coach that I've carried with me.
Coach, man, we really
Those things
appreciate you.
sound familiar,
Yeah.
Coach?
Clear, clean, concise, and direct. And direct is the
Yeah.
most important. And that came from one guy, Woody Hayes. I remember the day I walked into Ohio State in 1986. And that is, Mark, you know what direct teaching is? It's teach the teacher. And that's when so many times you walk in, and Mike became excellent at it. You walk into a room where a coach is coaching, and he all says, everybody got me? Good. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. Everybody got what? The player's got to be able to spit back what the coach just said. And that came from Woody.
Yep.
That's a Woody Hayes-ism. And I
Hey,
carried it with my entire career.
tell me the next time somebody says, "Hey, does anybody have any questions?" Tell me how many people raise their hand. There won't be one single person that raised their hand. Everybody's looking to get the hell out of there. So I get hired, and Urban's like, "Hey, I want you to speak at the Ohio High School Coaches Association." And this is Ohio is a good football state, right? And they come down here and they come for the weekend. And so I've got the time at 4 o'clock on Friday, right? Which is probably the worst possible time you could have, because there's 600 high school coaches looking to get to happy hour and drink beer, but they got to listen to me speak at 4 o'clock. I said, fellas, I'm going to be as fast as I possibly can, because I know you guys are itching to get to happy hour. And they started laughing. I was like, well, at least we're off on the right foot here. I said, they're just setting me up for failure. Speak to these guys at 4 o'clock before
Right.
happy.
Right. Hey, Coach, man, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy, but what we do on the show is, man, we've been shooting you a question for 20 minutes. Now you got a chance to fire one back at us. You can ask Coach, you can ask myself, whatever you want.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the opportunity to shoot one back at us.
Who was if you had to gain 1 yard, which lineman would you want to run behind in your career?
Ooh. Man, I think I've ran behind a couple Hall of Famers, man. So I'd have to go Jari Evans from the Saints, or I'd have to go Marshall Yanda from the Ravens. Those were two of the best guards to ever play the game. And
how big were they?
Man, they were, probably like 295, 305, but just
not big guys. Like Marshall Yanda was like he would have been like in the outside zone world.
Yeah, but
Like,
just to follow them on a traditional power,
pad level.
Yeah.
What was your favorite run? What would you want Urban to call?
Man, I love the power. I love the counter.
Mickey.
I love my pullers. I love my pullers. But I also love the inside zone. I just want the rock, Coach. I just want the rock, man. So I love the inside zone. You get to press. You get to use your vision. You get to feel the cutback.
Get back behind the B block.
Yeah, man.
Get back behind the V.
Yes, sir. And then get vertical, and then make your magic happen. But
I'm an offensive guy now. You know what I mean? I spent 6 years in Tennessee, a head coach, a consultant.
I love the way
I'm offensive.
I loved your offense in Tennessee. I'll just tell you that. The way you would hand the ball to Derek 30 times a game, that's me, man. I love that.
Play action. Oh, you want 30 times. It sounds like every running back that's ever carried the ball 30 times.
Are you a 3-4, 4-3 on defense, Mike?
I mean, the base, which is only 20% of the time, will be like a 34 structure. But I mean, most of the games
Nickel.
played the substituted defenses anyways. Like these nickels are becoming the most important position
Facts.
or one of the most important
Yeah,
positions. It's a playmaking linebacker that can blitz, that can cover, that's instinctive. There's so many bubble relief throws that they got to be able to tackle. And, there's trying to find guys that can play man also in the slot.
Well, thanks for your time, brother. Love your
You
family.
got it, man.
I wish you best.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us,
Appreciate
Coach.
it.
We
If you
appreciate
guys ever
you.
need anything, you want to come up, maybe do the podcast from training camp or something.
Yes, sir.
See you, Mike.
Wait till it gets more. Urban likes that sun.
Right. Me too.
Light it.